Hello, friends. I want to welcome you to Ignited Life Now, Prophetic Worldview. I have a very special guest, man, that I am so pumped up and excited to introduce. L.A. Marzulli is here with us, and I have his bio in front of me, but I don't think I have time to read all that God is doing in his life. He's an author, he's a lecturer, filmmaker, written at least 12 books, maybe more already
13.
since, wow,
Yeah,
13.
13.
13 and probably one in the
Yeah,
uh,
I'm working on one.
one in the oven.
Yeah, you
uh,
got it.
LAMarzulli.net. You can get all that information. LA, thanks a lot for being here. You're not a stranger to our ministry and the people that are watching right now by no means. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me on. I look forward to doing it in the future too.
Awesome. Yes, sir. I'm not going to take long. I've had a burning question. I've always been intrigued with the supernatural, intrigued with UFOs, intrigued with all these different things. Even before I was born again, my dad was in aviation, military, and in
Wow, okay.
commercial, and I heard all the stories of the gremlins. I've heard the stories of the pilots and the Devil's Triangle because I lived off the coast there, in Miami where I
Florida.
lived. So all
Okay.
that was in my mind and in my heart. And then when you get saved, it gets pushed to the side, right? That's we don't talk about that. And let's stick with the birds and the bees, if you will, the ABCs of Christianity. And as I've gotten older in ministry and life, man, you dive into this phenomenal resource that's out there. And by the way, thank you so much for your gift that you give to the body of Christ. You've been doing it for so long, and
Praise the
I'm
Lord.
always intrigued to catch interviews of and documentaries that you have made. My burning question to start out with is basically, regardless of somebody's view of the tribulation period, we know from Revelation chapter 9 there are real entities, absolute real entities. We have these locusts that sting like scorpions. They hurt but don't kill. And then a little later, we have 200 million horsemen, if you will, that do kill a third of the population. These are real entities that come out of the abyss that tie into Genesis 6, I think, in the giants and the Nephilim and imps and demons and fallen angels and aliens. My question to you in all your years of experience, what is it going to look like on the earth? Because there will be people there. I'm
Mhm.
going to try to get this all out and set it up, but there's going to be people there. Obviously, Revelation 9 says that. But is it like Clash of the Titans? Are we looking at Jurassic Park, Planet of the Apes? What are, I know for the church, if somebody's born again, we have the power of the blood and the armor and these things. What about humanity? What does it look like to you putting all that together?
Well, it's the time of Jacob's trouble. It deals with the 7-year period of Israel. I don't believe the church is here for it. We've not been appointed to wrath. People would disagree on that, but it's the time of Jacob's trouble,
Okay.
not Fred's trouble. So
Right.
it is what it is. It deals with Israel. It deals with Israel's unbelief. They will look on him whom they have pierced eventually, mourn for him as an only son. Meantime, all hell breaks loose. It's like in the Lord of the Rings where you see Saruman creating the Urukai, which is just a real, I mean, I'm a Lord of the Rings fan and I get it. There's a lot of occult images in there, that please don't write me. I understand. But I read those books in my late teens, early 20s, and just wow, this is amazing. And this before I was born again and spirit filled. I've also seen the movies. I'm not obsessed with it, but they're really cool. Anyway, Saruman creates the Urukai. And we know from Genesis 3:15 that there's a seed war. The question is it going on in the Abuso or somewhere else? Can he create things in the Abuso? Can he in the abyss? Has he set up shop down there? The short answer to that is we don't know. The biblical answer is these things are coming out of the abyss, so something's going on.
Right. Right.
Something, maybe it's a workshop down there. I don't know. But whatever comes out is terrifying. And Jesus warns us, unless those days were shortened, no flesh would survive. So what is coming upon the planet, coming out from the abyss, and then all the stuff coming from above?
Sure.
Men think for fear from what is coming upon the earth. I mean, you're getting it from both ends. It's like, you got to be kidding me. I don't believe the church is here. We're not appointed to wrath. People will argue that. I'm not going to argue it. It is what it is. Believe what you want to believe.
Sure.
And I think we're really close, but we'll see. But this is an unprecedented time in all of history. And of course, the end of that is the rider on the white horse. And I believe when he comes back, it's not lopping heads off. We're not doing that. No. He destroys, out of his breath comes the sharp sword with which to strike the nations. And we know from scripture that he is before all things and he holds all things together. Is it possible that sharp sword is just, I'm not holding you together anymore? And they melt, and they just basically melt. Their eyes turn, the whole deal. They just disintegrate. They just collapse on the ground, which is why the blood goes up and the whole deal. He just stops holding them together. It's like, okay, I'm not doing this. And then when we get there, there's 4 billion people left on the earth who have no idea who this guy is and what just happened. Right. We're all on flying white horses, which sounds wacky, but Revelation tells us, Revelation 19, the armies of heaven were with him on white horses, dressed in fine linen, white and clean. I was there 43 years ago for 3 seconds. I'm on a white horse. There's no bridle. There's no saddle. I'm holding on to the horse's mane. Second one. Second two, I look to the left. Right around the white horse is way in the distance. It's a horseshoe shape, and the armies of heaven are stacked like floors in a building, up 1 to 50, whatever. And in the center of that huge horseshoe is the rider, is Jesus, and all the horses are staggered. How can they possibly do that? Because they're supernatural horses. And I'm only there for 3 seconds. I knew that I could communicate with this animal. It wasn't beyond that. That didn't happen, but I knew instinctively that there's no way in a million Sundays this horse is ever going to let me fall off his back, no matter what. And I'm not a rider. I don't like horses. So 1 second, I'm holding on to the mane. Second 2, there's the rider. Second 3, I'm up here on the right flank, about 8 rows back. And in front, in the very, very front, are really big guys. I mean, really big guys. You don't want to mess with them. And then I'm back and I go, what was that? Yeah. I mean, I was there. It wasn't a vision. I was there, like Paul says, for 3 seconds. So I think when he returns with the armies of heaven, you got 4 billion people have no idea what's going on. He dispatches us. That's where the white horse police force, this is where the prophecy, in my opinion, that you will rule 10 cities or 3 cities or 1 city or whatever you're going to do. He dispatches all these guys, all of us, and we set up the kingdom. I mean, it's like instant. It's not this long procedure like at the end of D-Day and this whole, it's not what it is. It's like, bam, we land, they're out of here, and it's all being covered by satellite TV and everything else, because that's still intact on some level. Sure. So he dispatches us. Maybe I wind up in, Kauai someplace, whatever. But
desire of your heart.
and this is the other prophecy that I think is fulfilled. You'll do these in greater works. That's the millennium, in my opinion. We're in immortal bodies. We're in immortal bodies. There's no sin nature. And we're bringing heaven to earth at that point. We are healing this. We're preaching the gospel, healing the sick, raising the dead, delivering people from the demonic. This is what we're doing. And we're getting people saved in the millennium. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So I think it's a construct. It's the enemy throwing out pretty much all that he's got, because he really thinks in his hubris that somehow he can defeat the rider on the white horse, and that's just not going to happen.
He's brain dead, and he thinks he could do it again. And that, and you said in the beginning, which you talked about, we're getting closer to it, and I definitely believe that. And the great deception, I want to talk about that, because all of this is precursors to what's coming, and we are getting so close to the the alien disclosure, which we already know it's there. It's like a popcorn bag; you can't hold it anymore. Everybody's talking about it. People like you, and we're always on the fringe. Now, they want to talk to you about it, and that's great for the gospel, no doubt about it. But having said that, there's a lot happening that the church is not aware of. You have the discovery of it's not discovery to many of us, but the Alaskan Triangle is now coming out. Been happening since 1970. The 20,000 people have been missing. highest missing population in the world or in America is right there. And there's only 1% population of Alaska. Figure that out. And so, all that's happening right now. So what I'm asking you is, in the whole scheme, the whole understanding, biblical perspective of the giants, Nephilim, and the Revelation 9 and other places, I mean, we're about to see some pretty wild stuff come on the earth. I mean, is that what you're thinking and seeing?
Yeah.
I mean, they're already dwelling among us.
Yeah, I mean, my good friend who passed away, Russ Desdar,
Yeah.
a couple of years now. It's unbelievable. But Russ used to talk about the theory on the beasts of the earth, and he would say, sort of tongue in cheek, where these are not hamsters and giraffe, and they're not. And you're not looking at a bunch of grizzly bears attacking a city. What you're looking at is Sasquatch. And I realize for some people go, oh my God, LA, we thought you were out there with this UFO stuff. Now you're really crossed the line.
You're gone.
Well, ignorance and arrogance is a deadly combination.
Yeah.
Do you really think the enemy's going to tip his hand and go, oh, by the way, guys, hi, this is Beelzebub with an update. And by the way, we're going to release the Sasquatch all over the country, and it's going to create complete havoc. But that's secret information, and he's not doing that. He's holding everything way close to the vest. We know that Sasquatch, the sightings have gone through the roof.
Yeah.
Have gone through the roof. They are multiplying. They are everywhere. The sightings are, look at a map. I believe, and they're interdimensional entities. They can pop in, pop out. Notice there are no bodies. Very difficult to kill one. You let something like this, who's 14 feet tall, into a town, and all hell breaks loose. Yeah. All hell breaks loose. And the problem, you say this in the church and they look at you like you got three heads. And I mean, I get that. But I'm the same guy who for decades have been warning about the coming great deception. You mentioned that. That's a phrase that I coined in 1999 in my very first book, Nephilim, The Truth is Here. It's a fictional book. It was published by Zondervan. We have the rights back, so we publish it under our own publishing company. And I coined that phrase, the coming great deception. Now, whether other people coined it, I don't know, but it's in the book. And that's what I think it came from here, led by the Holy Spirit. But the bottom line is I've been banging this drum forever. And now all of a sudden, as you mentioned earlier, it's on Fox and CNN and 60 Minutes and ABC. It's everywhere. And it's a managed agenda. Most people who get traction, who get on these shows, are all military or ex-military. So it shows you that who's pulling the strings. Someone like me, I can't even get to first base. I'm marginalized and set aside. So the Christian perspective, even though I've been talking about it, and by the way, I'll be on Coast to Coast tonight, talking about our new film, Cattle Mutilations. I can't even get to first base with any of this. In the A, on the A team on Fox News, they're not interested. But they'll have Jeremy Corbell, who somehow is documentary filmmaker, Jeremy Corbell. Well, he took our material when we took the implant out of Emil in Watchers 10, Watchers 9. And Emil was there. And we took the implant out, but Jeremy Corbell, and I have no axe to grind with Jeremy, but Richard, my late business partner, Richard Shaw, passed away a couple of years ago. He said, yeah, I'll give you the footage, but promise that you'll give us credit. Well, he never did. And in the film, you hear me talking off camera. I mean, this was our deal. We paid for the whole thing. Wow. Jeremy didn't pay for anything. We paid for the medical doctors, the the surgeon, the whole deal. I mean, it was like upwards of, I don't know, $5-7 grand, something like that. Not a whole lot of money, but for us back then, it's a lot of money. Sure. And so this is the film that launched him, Patient 17. Well, we interview Emil, years later in our fourth film on abductions. And Emil is on camera. He's no longer being masked. He's talking because Jeremy already did that to him in Patient 17. And Emil talks about it. In fact, I had breakfast with him on Saturday. I try to meet with him once every couple of months and just touch base and see how he's doing. Sure. He's struggling in his faith, but he's holding on. He realizes that something's going on, and he kind of picks my brain on this. And so we talk Jesus from the moment we sit down at the table till even after we leave. But this is the greatest secret. And the setup is, in my opinion, and I'll talk about this at the Prophecy Watchers Conference next weekend.
Awesome.
We are all linked up via the satellite network,
mm-hmm.
which is unprecedented in all of history. We are now, it's a global village. I hate to use that word, Hillary Clinton, but it's true.
Yeah.
We are the village, and
yeah.
we're all together,
yeah.
and here we are, and everything's linked up. We saw with the Fukushima disaster, the 9.1 earthquake. I watched the tidal wave come in real time. How's it possible, right? So we're in a brave new world. Same thing with COVID. Everything was like all the COVID updates. Here we are. They light up the grid. The world is in lockstep. What's been going on recently has been a saber rattling over between the Russians, Ukraine, Eastern Europe about the use of tactical nukes.
Right.
You have a nuclear explosion anywhere on this planet, including the Iranians with Israel. You get tactical nukes going off. The globe, we're going to watch this and the aftermath and everything on the global satellite network.
Yep.
We're going to see everything. This will create the greatest amount of fear that mankind has ever collectively experienced together. And we will all experience together.
Yeah.
The only time we'll be terrified. Guess what? That's when they show up. And in my opinion, there's a phrase I coined a couple of years ago. We go up, they show up. We go up, they come down.
Right.
So the rapture of the church will be explained away. And I heard this 50 years ago, before I was a born-again Christian, 50 years ago, when I was involved in the New Age and channeled information and talking about the aliens and all this stuff, that when they show up, there's going to be a group of people, the fundamentalists, who will be taken off the planet because we're not ready for the paradigm shift. We're just, we just can't get over that Jesus guy. It's what it is. And so we off planet and they're going to reincarnate and become more enlightened, and then we'll bring them back.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to say. I heard that 50 years ago before I was a Christian. And I went, that sounds really crazy. But that, in my opinion, is how they're going to explain away the rapture. And then you've got, there they are. Everybody can see them. The neo-Darwinists are going, hooray, our progenitors are here. Because they will say that we created all life on this planet. We genetically manipulated all life, including early man. We started the world's religions. We started the world's civilizations. Now, at this critical juncture in human history, we are back. We are your saviors. And we're going to give you an implant, by the way, which will,
that'll help you.
Yeah, it'll extend your lifespan at least 300 years.
Yeah, trust us.
We're going to give you the free energy. Everybody's going, yay! But that's not what happens, and we all
with a phone.
With a phone. So I think, with a phone. Obama gave me his cell phone. So I think that's the scenario, a very plausible scenario.
Sure.
And when they come up, people don't realize this. Everything changes.
Right.
If we're still here, people like me are going to be looked at and persecuted. There's no doubt.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. So we'll see. That's why we watch. Yeah.
Do you believe that? There's so many different views out there about all that. But do you believe they're going to use the panspermia type of doctrine, if you will?
Absolutely.
Explain that a little bit, because a lot of people don't know what that is. And
panspermia is the idea that we were seeded here from another planet, which is what I said. But they seeded all life on this planet. They genetically manipulated man. They are our progenitors. When you sit down with Ben Stein, who interviews Richard Dawkins in his movie Expelled, No Intelligence Allowed, which is an old film. I think it's 15 years old by now. Right. I used to reference that quite a lot, because it's just groundbreaking. And Stein asked Dawkins, well, how do you think it came about? Stein asked him, well, where did the first self-replicating molecule come from? And Dawkins has no answer. I told you, no one knows. And he's very effete about it. I told you, no one knows. Well, if no one knows, well, how do you think it came about? Well, I suppose it could have come about this way. And then he begins, somewhere in the galaxy, a race of beings must have come into some intelligence by a Darwinian process. Well, that's circular reasoning. I mean, you don't know. The bottom line is you're making it up. You're just making it up. Yeah. So what we have in this book right here is prophetic words. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Bam.
Right.
All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. So
Yeah.
we either believe that or the ruse and the canard of Darwinism or
Yeah.
panspermia, that we
Yeah.
were seeded here by ancient aliens. And ancient aliens promulgates that view every Friday. They've been doing it for 15 years. I was on
Yeah.
season 1 and season 2, and then I left. We started the
Yeah, which I have the watchers behind me, by the way, here.
okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah. We'll get all, I want to get all that information out here in just a minute. I'm going to try to crunch this down for your time. Uh, yeah, uh, it's already been reported. NASA's got chaplains kind of lined up.
Yeah, that's the sixth run on the disclosure ladder, by the way.
Right, right. The Catholic Church has already been doing this.
Already on board. Oh yeah.
So all we need is
my library.
Yeah, I mean it's right there. So when you talk about close, I mean, man, I mean we're really, really that close to some type of disclosure, something that what they say, the old genie coming out of the box type of thing, or out of the bottle. We're not going to be able to put this thing back, and
we already can't.
Yeah, it's too late.
We have right now. We have 6 films on the UFO phenomena. We're the only Christian ministry that's even come close to that. We have 6 films, and we're working on 7, which is Roswell. We just released the cattle mutilation film, which is the darkest film I've ever done in my life. I'll be on Coast to Coast tonight, but what I'll be talking about there is that there's a correlation between the abduction phenomena and the cattle mutilations. And people go, well, why do we need to know that? It's just, where's the salvation message? A lot. Salvation, folks, that's the shallow end of the pool. Right. That's when we come to the Lord and we get baptized, shallow end of the pool. We're talking the deep end now. We're talking, that's milk. We don't need a salvation message. You're already saved. What we need to know is what the enemy is strategizing and what his end game is, and that's what we're doing. Because we do not fight against flesh and blood. We fight against principalities, archons, cosmocrates, the whole deal, as the late Rustis used to say. So this is the deep end of the pool, and what we've uncovered in the film, they take the animals drain the blood, they take genetic material, okay? Human blood and cow blood, bovine blood, can be used interchangeably in blood transfusions.
Wow.
In other words, in a battlefield scenario, or just in a medical scenario, if you're low on blood, you can use bovine blood. It's been approved by the FDA. I'm not making this up. Do your own research and prove me wrong. Sure. It can be used and is being used. So it's interchangeable. What I believe, because they take the cow, when they find the cow has drained the blood. Vultures and scavengers won't get near it. Certain body parts are taken, sex organs, udders, the jaw around, the eye, the ear. Sometimes the brain is gone, the lungs, the heart, the whole, it's all over the map. Very grisly. And they place it back in the farmer's field. Why? Fear is the calling card of darkness. Fear is the calling card of darkness. There's no happy moment here, because the rancher comes out and he sees his dead cow. It's been mutilated. It's not just dead. It's mutilated. Calls his wife and kids. They look at it. That family is terrified. They don't know what's going on. They call out the veterinarian. He's never seen anything like it. He's trying to figure out what he's looking at. He gets scared. Call out law enforcement. Law enforcement looks at it. Wow, man, maybe it's a satanic cult. No, there's no footprints around it. There's animals drain the blood. What are we looking at? I saw some funny lights in the sky a couple of days ago. Finally, a local reporter comes out. Well, they don't do it so much anymore, but they used to. Just recently, in the spring, there was a rash of cattle mutilations in Texas.
I remember
national headlines.
Yeah.
So the church dithers won't deal with it. Won't talk about it. We do. You're looking at the fingerprints of darkness. You're looking at going into Hell's Kitchen. You're looking at what the enemy is cooking up in his sleeve, literally. He takes the blood and he takes the material. He is creating artificial wombs. Why? Because the women who are abducted and impregnated by them, Daniel 2, verse 43, their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. Who are they? Who are they? Seal up the words of his book, Dan, until the time of the end. That's a natural clue that we get. Men and women were To and fro the fish, the earth knowledge will increase. So 243 tells us there's seed will mingle, but there's no cleave. Cleave is marriage contract.
Right.
Like Genesis. They're not cleaving to anybody. They're just taking. So
right.
the woman is taken.
Mm-hmm.
That's abduction. That's kidnapping.
Yep.
She's raped. That's
yep.
rape.
Yep.
And she finds herself pregnant. But
right.
she doesn't realize she's been raped. She thinks I'm pregnant with my husband. So she's pregnant in the 3rd month of the 1st trimester. She's re-abducted and the baby is taken from her. But it's not a human child. It's a hybrid child with no soul. That child, that entity, I don't like to call it a child, that entity has to go somewhere in order to come to full realization. Mm-hmm. Welcome to the artificial wombs that they are creating.
Wow.
From the blood. And you heard that here first.
Yeah.
Heard that here first.
Because
nobody else has ever said that I'm aware of. Maybe somebody, but I've never heard it.
You know, because it's amazing, LA, that you just said that, because my last question of one of my last questions is that, and it's written down right here, about rape and the intercourse that goes back to Genesis 6, because I believe everything in Revelation is Genesis 2.0 on steroids.
It is,
you know, from the children of Israel, Pharaoh, Antichrist, the whole 9 yards. And I have it written down here, and I was going to ask you, and I felt, hey, you're the kind of guy who would answer it, that, hey, I think they're going to use it as a weapon. I think they're using it as a weapon now. And you just explained it in a very, that's one of those where you just go and think a little while about it. But it's plausible. I mean, it's possible. It's definitely a working thought. But LA, man, I'm running out of time. You're running out of time. I know you got so much to go do. Let me hit you with one other thing. Just real quick, your opinion, your view on this whole AI thing, the AI-powered disinformation. It's part of the Great Delusion, and like you say, the Great Deception. Christians got to be aware, regardless of end times, now, just today, to save our children and whatever. What's your quick thoughts about that? What's the remedy, and what do you say?
What is it? What is AI?
Right.
You know, who are these? What is inhabiting this machine, as it were?
Thank you.
And I just think it's, and I realize some people will go, well, that's just absurd. You know, that's just a witch hunt. You sound like you're back in the Middle Ages, LA. You know, you need to get a clue. This is technology. You don't know what's going on here. I think it'll be used to enslave us.
I agree. I think it's demon power in the machinery, absolutely, if you will.
All day long.
Awesome. LA, man, it's been a super, super great pleasure to have you. Marzulli.net.
Correct.
All your information is there, books, DVDs, live streaming or streaming, everything, right? Everything is there. There are 28 films in the catalog and 13 books. So there's a corpus of work here. Wow. You're not going to get it in a 25-minute interview. We are the only Christian ministry that has six films on the UFO phenomena. 7, I'm looking right at it over there. 7 will be out hopefully by the end of October. We'll see. We're like this. 7 is Roswell Part 1. 8 is Roswell Part 2. 9 is What is the Truth? Wow. And that's the end of the series. And the Lord gave me marching orders to finish these films by the end of the year. He's never done that with me before. I believe that, brother. He said, finish all. And right now, I mean, we got a shot at it. I mean, you know, if I'll be working on 7 the rest of the day here. And, you know, my business partner, Gil Zimmerman's coming down here on Tuesday. We may put this baby to bed next week. Nice. Well, you got a lot of material. I need to get busy and get ordering. Guys, get ordering some of his material. You really want to learn about it? Get it. Pray over it. Huh? Do a deep dive. Yeah, do a deep dive. Don't be afraid. Just do it and let the Lord lead you. LA, man, thank you for taking your time, sir. I really appreciate it. I'd love to. God bless you. Let's do it. Thanks, LA.